Sirens, Slammers, and Service, a podcast for female first responders by female first responders. My name is Nikki Clucci, and I will be your host. As a former correctional officer in Alberta for almost 2 decades and the founder of Blue Line Fitness Testing, which provides law enforcement fitness testing and first responder wellness workshops, I started this podcast as a way for female first responders to share the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of their daily work. I want to showcase the unique perspectives, skill sets, and personalities that women bring to a first responder career and share their stories. So get ready to laugh your ass off, learn a whole bunch, and be inspired by some pretty badass women. Let's go. Welcome back, guys. I am beyond excited to introduce my next guest, one of the probably cutest and sweetest little people that I've ever met in my entire life. I could literally scoop this girl up and squeeze her. She's adorable. I would love to introduce you to Marissa Nemish, Sergeant of Recruitment and Staffing Unit with the Alberta Sheriffs. Marissa's been with them for 7 years. Welcome, Marissa. I keep wanting to call you Shipston. I'm sorry. Congratulations on your latest nuptials. Very excited to have you. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I get emails even right now and I'm like, Nemish, who's that? Oh, that's me. Oh, that's me. Good. I should probably answer that. Like it's gonna take a bit to get used to.
Legit. I was like, Ship, not Shipson, Marissa. Ship, not no. It's Nemish now. It's Nemish now. Isn't it funny though? Like, and this is something. So we're both friends with Sheila Farrell. We've been talking about her before we started recording, but how
beauty of the lady.
Beautiful lady, love her, right? How you just can't like call your friends that work in first responder careers, you cannot call them by their first names. So you just can't. You're like, what's your name again? Like Sheila? What did you know? Your name's Farrell. Like, oh, what's your name? Oh, it's it's Tetley, it's Walsh. It is not, I don't know your first name. Do not tell me what your first name is because it goes in one ear and out the other. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you for joining me today. Thank you for giving me your time and energy. I greatly appreciate it. I know that a lot of our listeners are super excited about this episode. We have a lot of interest here in Alberta with the Alberta Sheriffs. Tell me how you got into law enforcement. Tell me how you got into the Sheriffs and how you got into your current role right now. Sergeant of Recruitment and Staffing. That's a huge role. I'm really proud of you for getting that role too. So let's do it. Tell me.
Perfect. Okay. Well, first off, thank you for having me. So what led me into where I am right now? Oh God. I hope we have more than an hour. So I'm born and raised in Thunder Bay, Ontario. When I was about 15, started hanging out with the wrong crowd, kind of got into trouble with the law. One of the constables of Thunder Bay Police pulled me aside, gave me a good talking to, said, you can either go down the left path or the right path. And whatever path you choose will either get you in jail or you're going to be something in life. So you walk away, you're 15, you're like, yeah, whatever. So walk away. I think it was about a year later. It really dawned on me, like I was really hanging out with the wrong crowd and, well, I didn't want to go to jail. So with that being said, I turned my life around. When I was 17, I moved to Alberta. I worked at a grocery store making minimum wage, barely making ends meet. Had pretty crappy upbringing, but I mean, who doesn't change it, turn it around and make it for the better? So moved to Alberta, $50 and a hockey bag full of clothes.
My sister, move to Alberta all by yourself?
One of my sisters was here.
Okay.
The other one lived in Calgary. And I have two sisters. They're both older. And then the other one, Alicia, lived in Edmonton, moved in with her. She helped me get my feet on the ground. And from there, I worked at the grocery store. I mean, you can eat hot dogs all you want, but they get gross after a while. So both her and I were just scraping by. She resigned from that position and I truly didn't enjoy what I was doing. So I applied to a security job, worked my butt off, continued to work, and then got into security at a mall, applied to the hospital. And I worked for the hospital for Covenant Health for 15 years. Yeah. So I know I look so young. Thank you.
You do look so young. I'm like 15 years. What the frick? Hello.
Yeah. So worked at Covenant Health for 15 years. Had a great leader there and some great coworkers. I got injured, hurt my hip, had hip surgery 7 years ago now. So then came back from my hip surgery and I decided that I truly didn't want to fight mental health patients every day, and I thoroughly enjoy talking to people, not just fighting. So I decided to apply to the Alberta Sheriffs. I got hired on and started my stint in court security, and prisoner transport is what it was called at the time. Did my stint there. One of my good girlfriends worked in out of province escort planning. So Alberta Sheriffs, if you don't know, we fly anywhere in Canada to pick you up if you have an outstanding warrant for any police agency within Alberta that would like you. So we will come get you and bring you back to Alberta to deal with your warrants. So my girlfriend was in that position. She was pregnant at the time and she was going off, and she put my name forward to get me into that position and try that out. Very similar personalities, so very outgoing. And she put my name forward. I got a shot at it, and I applied to the position when it did come out. I was successful in getting that position. I did that for maybe 2 years. I worked with another fella, and we had to change the whole system of how it worked. And then I indulged into our intel section as well. There was a sergeant's competition that came out within the midst of all of that. My secondment in OPE is what we call it, was coming to an end, so I applied to that. I was not successful. I did get a long-term acting position, and then positions moved around, and I was successful on getting a permanent sergeant position at the Edmonton Law Courts. So
how long did you have in with the sheriffs when you moved into your kind of like when you applied for that first sergeant's role? How long did you have in?
4 years.
Oh, good for you.
Pretty
That's awesome.
pretty junior,
Like
absolutely.
I'm with you. That was mine too. 5 years and I became supervisor, and everyone hated my goddamn guts for it, but too bad.
Yeah, I worked, people didn't see what I was doing in the background and all the work that I had put forth. And I mean, people will always talk. It's what you take from that and correct them. So with that being said, a lot of people were saying I only got this because I was a female, which is not correct. Yes, I am a female. Thank you for noticing. So I got the permanent position at the Edmonton Law Courts. And then my passion, absolute passion, is teaching. I love helping teaching recruits. I'm an EVOC instructor, so emergency vehicle operations. So I applied to the training academy a year and a half ago or so. Applied to the training academy, was not successful within that position. And then I felt like it was kind of a setback. Little disheartening, but I mean, at the end of the day, you take it, you learn, you get feedback, and you try to grow from that. So the recruiting position came open, and I applied to that, and I was successful on that position. So I've been in recruiting now for just over a year.
Good for you. I love it. That's amazing. So
That's my
7 years.
Coles note.
That's your Coles Notes journey through your career. I love it though. Like, I mean, there's so many different facets of kind of like where you went, what you did. Like again, the background you came from, right? And the choices that you made. I always said when I started in corrections, there was actually an inmate. And she's a very mentally ill inmate now, unfortunately, due to meth. She probably has actually passed away. But when I first started in corrections, her birthday was the same day as mine. And she was in on the unit, and you're looking at their files. I just noticed, I was like, oh, hey, we got the same birthday. Ha ha ha. And at the time she was, just had made some bad choices, had got in with the wrong crowd, didn't have the greatest upbringing. Right. And it was like, it really dawned on me at that point. Like, I was like, I could have been on that side of the wall. Yep. Like easily. I was the same as you, a little bit crazy, a little bit reckless, a little bit making stupid decisions because you're young, right? Could have pushed the envelope a little bit further, could have probably got picked up on an assault charge, right? Like, there was a lot of different things where, the stars just aligned and I managed to be in uniform and not in coveralls, right? But it's like, you look and you're like, very, very much choices that I made is what sent me down this way instead of going down the other way, right? And the fact that, then you turned it around, and then here you are, in charge of recruiting people into these positions and teaching. And, I didn't know that you were an EVOC instructor. I love it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I was very sad because
I
when
love
we went,
driving fast.
well, exactly right. When we went to what was it called? COBT when I went, Correctional Officers Basic Training. I went in
Yeah.
2004. There was no EVOC, there was no parade, there was no drill, there was definitely no PT. It was 4 weeks. It was like all classroom. We learned, those of you that went with me, I'm sure that there's people listening, like twist lock on, twist lock on. Okay, that was like the extent of your control tactics. Like we didn't get sprayed at the academy. Like it's changed so much since I was there, right? And like the number one thing that I'm so jealous of is EVOC. I'm like, how come you guys get to do that? I didn't get to do that. They just gave you the keys. They're like, go take this inmate somewhere. You're like, oh, okay, with the big 15 passenger van, like, let's go.
Let's hope we don't hit anything.
Right? Totally. Totally. Oh, so
Oh.
funny. So funny. So you're in this new role. Actually, okay, let's go back. So let's talk about Covenant Health for a
Yeah.
little bit. So
Yeah.
Covenant Health, were you like bouncing around different hospitals? Did you have a home base hospital? Like, how did that work?
Yeah. So for the first 2.5, 3 years, I was casual. So I bumped around to all the hospitals. At that time, we still had the Sturgeon and the Northeast Community Center. That was before AHS decided to take their hospitals back. So Misericordia, Grey Nuns, Edmonton General, and Villa Caritas when it opened. So went to whatever site they needed me, always worked my butt off, took OT. And then I finally landed a permanent position at the Misericordia Hospital, and that was my home base. And that is where I saw lovely Farrell all the
Yes,
time.
all the time, right? All the time. The same medics coming in, the same medics bringing the same people in, which is the other part
Yep.
of it, right? Like, so did
Yeah.
you guys have the same, like, you must have had the same, like, frequent flyers that you just saw, like, repeatedly every, like, once a week? You're like, oh, hey, Sam, you're back. How you doing, bud?
All the time, all the time. And like some of the stories and things that happened, like I remember working with an older gentleman my first week, and we were working at the Grey Nuns Hospital, and he was a community peace officer as well. Old guy, loved to wrestle, looks at me up and down, goes, "You're what? How tall? 5 foot?" And I was like, 5'3". And he's like, "What? 100 pounds?" And I was like, "I wish." I was like, 130. And he goes, "Okay, so what are you going to do when we get into a fight?" And I said, "Well, I guess we'll just have to see." And he goes, "You're going to have a lot of proving to do to me, kid." And I think that week we ended up getting in a massive altercation, and he loved to wrestle. So we went down. Well, if any of you know me, I have legs. I don't have upper body. So going down on the ground, perfect. We're going to win this. So we grappled with this guy for probably friggin' 5 minutes. And then he gets up, looks at me. He's like, "I think you'll do okay, kid."
Yes, yes. That's exactly
Yeah.
that. Very similar to my first one. Yeah, it was like I said, a veteran officer, and she just the same thing, looked me up and down. You'll do just fine, kid. And I was like, oh, thank God. Thank God
Thank
you
you
have
for your approval.
thank you. I appreciate that. Like,
Yeah, I
yeah.
ended up I loved working with him though. He was pretty funny. Every altercation we went in, he's like, "You better watch out. You better watch out. It's like a chihuahua." And I was like, "I'm not gonna bite their ankles."
You're like, I can still scrap. I'm just small. It's fine. That's awesome. So then as a community peace officer, like what is your role essentially within the hospital? Because I know that they have like I believe it's Paladin, that are working as security. But as the community peace officer, like what is your role compared to say like the security that I'm assuming is just doing intake, especially now with COVID, they're probably just checking to make sure, or we're checking to make sure that, people had vaccinations and stuff like that.
Yeah, so a funny piece, that's Alberta Health Services. We actually don't have contract security at Covenant Health. So
Oh,
each
okay.
squad has 3 to 4 community peace officers working. We deal with mental health, gaming and liquor, making sure that staff are safe, trolling the parkades, making sure that there's nothing going on, responding to whatever calls come in. So we don't have the contract security at those hospitals.
Okay. See, look at that. You learn something new every day. I assume that Covenant Health was a like a department underneath AHS, but it's entirely separate.
Kind of is.
Kind of is. Okay, kind of is. Of course, because it's government. So it's like, this is actually this, but it's not this. Only today, but tomorrow will
Yeah.
be. Okay.
Yeah. 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 No,
Okay.
it was good though, because you like once I got onto full time, I had the same partners. So you get to learn and work with them. Both of the two that I worked with forever. One I call a brother. Same with the other one. The other one was just here the other day. So it's good. I still have those bonds with the individuals, even though I've been gone from there for, I'm sad to say this, February. I left in February only.
Look at that. Aw, that's
I would
good.
work I would work my Monday to Friday with the sheriffs, and then on the weekends I would work at the hospital. So, and I'm not joking, every weekend. And those are 12 hours there. So it was good. It was good.
It was good. It was good. I just worked 7 days a week for like the last 15 years of my life.
I
Totally,
had
totally fine.
goals. I had goals.
You know what though? I mean that is one thing. Like for those of you that are looking to get into, a first responder career, law enforcement, if you want to put the hours in, you can put the hours in. The hours are available. If you want to work the OT and you have a goal and you want to go on a holiday or you want to buy a house or you want to buy a car or you want to like it is attainable if you are willing to put the hours in. I for sure. I worked with one guy years ago and this was before the Sunshine List came out, and it was his goal was to make $100,000 in the year. And at the time, we were
Easy.
not making $100,000 a year. Like it wasn't like it is now, right? Like you weren't even close. Like I think we were making like 38, 40 grand a year, right? Was like a base salary. And he set his sights on it and he was like, I'm going to make 100 grand this year. I want to make more than I think it was the director at the time. And we were all like, yeah, sure. You do you. Okay, bud, whatever. Right. Well, sure shit. He worked his ass off. He worked overtime 6 for 6 and three on like his 3 days
Jesus.
off. If he could pick up doubles on his days off, he would. I mean, he was also a nightmare wreck of a partner because he was so tired and like a disaster half the time that you were like, dude, like, I need you to pull it together. Like, we actually have a shit show happening here. I need you to not be tired right now. Go get a coffee and come back. Right. But he did it. I think he ended up making like 104 or something. And everyone was like
Jesus.
blown away. They were just like, holy shit. Right. And I mean, this was like this at least 15 years ago, this happened. But yeah, you've got goals. You want to make the money. You're willing to put the hours in. You're willing to put the work in and hopefully don't burn out. Then you can do
yeah,
it.
I hit burnout. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It took
Well, and
me a
then
few months now to kind of recover now that I just don't work weekends. And now that I have weekends off, I'm like, how did I work? Like, I'm so busy on my weekends right now. And I mean, granted, we moved, but still, I'm like, oh my goodness, like, this is what life is all about. You can live, you can do things you enjoy. Like, what? I can go
what?
fishing on the weekend.
What is this? What is this lunacy? I love it. That's awesome. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And like for anyone honestly looking to get that experience, I thoroughly believe the hospitals is where it's at. Like you have the different variety of individuals you deal with. You get to learn, and this is huge. This is huge to me. Like talk to someone. Like treat them as you want to be treated, because I find that everyone has zero patience. Nobody wants to take the time. Like just sit and listen to someone, right? Like talk to them, listen, don't even say anything. Like sometimes you don't even need to say anything. Just be there. So working at the hospital, I definitely got that variety of individuals that I got to deal with, right? You see people at their worst when you're at the
Mm-hmm.
hospitals, and you really get to learn how to speak with people. So learning to speak with people, being patient with people, like they're up there with their patients. They don't have any. They're super high strung usually coming in. Everything they're there for is an emergency to them. Maybe it's not to you, but it is to them. So understanding that everybody has a different vision of what an emergency is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I truly believe if you want that experience, working in the hospitals is a good start.
I like that because I think, and obviously coming from corrections, we always say, like if you want to see anything and everything, come work in
Oh,
corrections,
yes.
right? But the flip side of that is that we are within a confined compound, right? And we don't have public scrutiny, which is a good thing and a bad thing, right? We don't have the family of the person you're scrapping with standing right there watching you scrap with their mentally ill sibling
Correct.
or,
Yeah.
daughter or son or whoever, right? We're just in there dealing with them again. Same thing usually at the worst of the worst, right? Part of their lives, they've hit rock bottom. Sometimes they're like, hey, welcome home. I'm back. Right. But
Yeah.
like at the hospital, you also have the public scrutiny. You have way more equipment that you need to be wary of and aware of that could be used as weapons against you, that could be used as, hostage taking. Like there's so many other factors that like you have to take into consideration when you're in I call it unsecure, area, in that like and people with cell phones can video you, right?
Oh yeah.
There is nobody videoing. I mean, there's cameras and stuff in the jail, but there's no member of the public with their, 30 seconds of highly edited, film that they're taking of you that they're then going to post to social media showing you manhandle their mentally ill person. What they didn't capture was the last 10 minutes when you've been trying to talk this guy down who's holding a syringe or whatever else they're doing, right? So I agree. I think that the hospital would be a previous episode, Barb Sexsmith, we were talking about, in a jail, you're going to see every spectrum of mental illness untreated, right? Because usually when they're coming into us, they're not on their meds, they're not well, right? Hospital, same thing. You're getting them for the most part on intake, unwell, unmedicated, every spectrum of mental illness. And they're like, go and deal with this person. And you're like, okay, let's go and attempt to talk this person down. I agree with you too. I wholeheartedly subscribe to talking to the people. For me, that was how I built rapport with everybody. Is I would go out there and I would be me. I would be the same Nikki that's like, hey, what's up? What's going on, guys? La, 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 right? Like as I walk through the unit. But I mean, amazing. Inmates would tell me things all the time because they knew that I would just listen, that I would stand in the cell door and I would listen to their, sob story about their girlfriend or whoever that took their kids and this is happening and they've lost their job. And by the way, there's a shank in cell 13. Thank you. Like as I walk out the door, right? Like, but because I was willing to listen to everything that they had to say. I mean, yes, does it make your rounds take 10 years? Yes, but that's what we're supposed to do.
Don't you get paid for that?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Right. Like I would rather be doing rounds than sitting in my office doing paperwork. So I'll take it. Right. So let's jump to it, moving into the sheriff. So sorry, you said you got injured. Did you get injured on the job or did you get injured?
Yeah. So EMS brought in at the Miz, brought in a very mentally ill individual. The paramedic at the time kept asking the individual at triage what their date of birth was. At this point, like it's irrelevant. Like just leave it. Jacked the person up, getting them amped up on trying to get them to answer their questions. And the paramedic stepped in front of the patient and decided to start screaming at the patient. The patient went to go swing at the paramedic. This individual was, 6'5", probably like 200 pounds or so. So I'm standing right there. My partner was close to me as well. And the individual, like the patient went to go swing at the paramedic and we took the patient down. It was a fight for, oh God, probably 20 minutes. And if anybody's been in a fight, that is the longest fight ever.
Holy man.
So when we took the patient down, his pants came down and he defecated all up my uniform. Probably the worst pink eye I've ever had in my entire life. Just throwing that out there. There's a good laugh for people.
Dude.
So when we took the patient down, my right knee hit the concrete of the floor at triage and like instant pain, but I mean, we're in it. We're in the fight.
Yeah.
My partner looks up at me and was like, "Oh my God, go change your uniform." And I'm like, "Why? Why? We're not even done fighting." And like,
Yeah.
if anybody knows me, this grossed me out more than anything. Like
Yeah.
feet gross me out. I mean, there's feces all over my uniform. Like, at what point do you just look at it and be like, great, this just freaking happened, right?
Yeah.
So we continue in this altercation, and then we get the patient to the bed and restrain the patient to the bed. And then it was like everything, your SNS is just, you're coming down.
Yeah.
Yeah, your PNS.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, there is literally feces all over my uniform, like in my boots, everything. And I was just like, dry heaving at this point.
Yeah.
So I go downstairs, I throw my whole uniform out. There's no salvaging this. I don't
Yeah.
care. I'm like, it's gone.
Yeah.
And I type up my report and I go home for the night because now I'm in pain. There was 4 doctors that were like, oh, you just have a bruised hip. You just have a bruised hip. And I was like, no, 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 no. Like, and I was training for a marathon at this point. So I'm like, okay, I can barely run. Like I run a day and then I'm in pain for 2 weeks. So it's got to be something more than just a bruised hip. So it wasn't until one of the doctors was standing with me at the MIS and I said, hey, I'll triage myself, but I really need to go for a CT, MRI, something. Like I need to know what's happening. Like it's holding me back. We get into altercations at work. I'm taking time off. That's not me. Like I'm not living. Go for a scan and sure enough, I have a labral tear in my hip. So it's WCB, and within a month of it being diagnosed, I had hip surgery. I was off work for probably a year. Honestly, it was the hardest year, like trying to navigate if I'm coming back to work, what I'm going to do with my life, and trying to figure out like, okay, so today I can't get out of bed. So one of my partners from work, him and his wife took me in for a couple weeks to try to help me and mentally help me get out of my funk. So they took me in and they helped me. Their 4-year-old daughter at the time had to dress me, and she's like, Auntie, I can put my pants on. How come you can't?
You're like,
get out of here.
Shut up, child. I could squish you.
Yeah. So anyways, I overcame. I had to go to WCB's Millard Center where they give you all the same exercises for no matter what injury you have.
No.
And I was so angry that I wasn't getting better. Like I was still in excruciating pain. I had hip surgery. Like it should be better now. It was just before Christmas and they said, oh, we're cutting you off after Christmas no matter what. Yeah, great. Thanks. I'm going back before Christmas because I'm going to get all my stat pay. And they're like, no, 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 you have to do all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, so schedule me to do it tomorrow and we're doing it. And that's it. So I did their testing, passed, got all my stats over Christmas.
Good work.
And then still in excruciating pain, applied to the sheriffs, got through training, still in pain. I'm not complaining. Like I got my job that I wanted. I went through training, met some fantastic people. I'm powering through. And then it wasn't until I was on escorts, is what we call it, when we go to the correctional centers or police detachments and we pick up inmates and bring them to either correctional centers or court, wherever across Alberta. So I was with one of my FTOs and they were talking to me about PRP. And I was like, what is PRP? So he starts explaining to me it's platinum-rich plasmia. And he said his wife did it and it worked great for her hips. So I did the first injection, paid it out of pocket, and then it lasted. So I went again a few months later and it lasted now, I think I'm on year 3 without pain. Like, I mean, I got arthritis, but it is what it is. I'm getting older. Yeah, 3 years now without pain, all because the PRP.
Holy. So how much was the treatment?
$800 an injection, and you only need the one. There's another one called prolotherapy.
Yeah.
It's a little bit cheaper, but you need more injections.
Yeah.
But yeah, the PRP, life-saving.
So like I mean, like this will go off on a tangent about like our healthcare system, but like I don't understand that nobody would tell you for $800 you could be pain free, or just hey for the next year just be in excruciating pain and like really hating your life. I don't like that is mind blowing to me that nobody said to you there's this option out there. Like wow.
Yeah.
So
I'm pretty grateful that I did have an incredible FTO at the time, and I mean that we were able to talk about this, and he tells me that his wife did it and it worked. And I mean, at that point, you're like, okay, let's try it. Like something's got to give here.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well,
like
and
sitting all day driving, I was like, and I love driving. Like I freaking love driving. So I'm like, oh, why am I in pain? Like this isn't happening. Are you serious right now? And then we get out and I'm like, my leg is numb. I'm like, oh God.
Yeah, like, well, I can't even, I can't believe you got through training academy in pain, because the amount of physical stuff that you're doing at the training academy, like all day, every day, and doing it in pain, like that's astounding to
You know
me.
what?
Like,
Here's the funniest story for you. Oh, I hope Farrell laughs at this one so hard. Okay. So I'm like week 4 or 5 into training, okay? And we're doing ground fighting, and my knee pops out. And I look over at my partner at the time and I said, pop it back in, pop it back in. And he's like, no, God, gross, no. And then raises his hand, instructor, her knee's out. And I was like, fuck, come on, I'm in so much pain. Do it for me. Like, I can't do it. And then they elevate my leg and everything else. And then the paramedics come and they're like, wow, we got to take you to the hospital. I was like, come on, just don't. And then if you know anything, getting uniforms can be difficult sometimes.
oh,
So
as a female,
our
yeah. We're gonna do an
our
episode on that, actually.
so our tack pants, okay? I'm like, just take my pants off. People, look away. Just look away, please. Don't cut the pants. So the paramedic cuts the pants, okay? And we're on our way to the hospital. And I was like, could I use your phone, please? And she's like, sure. And I memorize all the people that are important to me, phone numbers, and I'm like, hey, Farrell, I'm on the way to the Grey Nuns. What are you doing? And she's like, I'm on my way there too. I was like, okay, so I'm in the back of an ambulance. They cut my pants. She's like, oh, they did not. And I said, yeah. I said, it was a female. She cut my pants. I asked her not to. I said, just take my pants off. Come on. And she's like, no, I got to cut them. So we get to the hospital. Farrell's there. And she's like, you can download her to me. I'm here anyways. So we just sat there and giggled the whole time. And I was like, oh my God. And the doctor, he's like, what happened? Because, obviously I worked there. He
Yeah.
recognized me. I tell him. And he goes, okay, so now what? And I said, well, if you don't think I'm good, I'm done with training. And he's like, oh, no, you're fine. You're going back. And I remember the instructor at the time saying to me, you'll be done now because, nobody comes back from these injuries. And I was like, I'll see you Monday. I'll see you Monday. I've been through a lot. This isn't holding me back now. So I was there Monday and I made it through training.
Legitimately, you are my twin. I swear to God, I am exactly the same. I would have been like, actually, no.
I'll see you
Like,
Monday no matter what.
yeah, like if I'm coming in a fucking wheelchair, I'm coming in on Monday. I'll see you then.
Yeah,
Like,
I wore a knee brace, I think, for 2 weeks only. But I was able to do everything. It didn't stop me. Like
I love
hip
you.
hurting, knee hurting. I'm like, meh, whatever, keep going.
When
I
you
don't
were at
like
training,
complaining.
how old were you when you were at training?
I don't know.
You don't know.
What am I now?
You're like, how old am I now?
28, maybe? 28.
Yeah. The other thing that I love is, how old am I now? And then instinctively reaches for the pen that would be in your breast
No,
pocket, right?
did you like that?
Yeah, because I do it too. So if anybody works in law enforcement or first responder, if you
We
see
do
us
not carry our phones.
grabbing for our boobs, it's because we're looking for the pen that would normally be in our pocket. And I will be like in a bank and be like, I'll be like, oh, do you have a pen? And I'm like, tap, tap, tap. No. And then they're like looking at me like, what is wrong with this chick? And I'm like, oh, here's your pen on the counter. Thank you. Yeah.
Even at work. So, because in my position, some days I'll wear my uniform, some days I'll wear dress clothes, and I always have my pen. And like, I love that no one else will see this, but I'm going to do it for you, okay?
Yes.
So I'll always put it on like my collar of my shirt.
Yes.
And then I'm like, oh, I lost my pen. No, it's at the same friggin' spot. I put it every other day. Like, are you kidding me?
You're not drawing your chin with it like that. I would like come home with like the pen beard like drawn on.
Shirt just covered in pen.
Well, okay. So I will tell you a pen shirt story. So when we opened the new jail, I don't know, you might not have been with the sheriff 7 years. No, you might not have been with the sheriffs yet. So we opened the new jail in 2013. And again, let's talk about fucking uniform choices. Somebody in their great wisdom in the higher ups of Solicitor General and Justice decided that the managers would wear white shirts and the staff would wear the blue shirts, right?
Yeah.
And we all said that this was a terrible fucking idea. It's great if you work at head office and you want to wear your white shirt, or you want to wear it for the dress uniform, you want to look sharp in your white shirt, totally get it. It is completely ridiculous to put somebody in a white shirt and send them out into a jail. because it's filthy and just stupid. And now you've drawn a complete line between us and our frontline staff. So I would walk on the unit in a white shirt, boom, instantly inmates surround me like, Miss T, Miss T, Miss T, Miss T, I want to see a white shirt. I want to see a white shirt, because they knew white shirts were managers, right? I mean, they could still tell that we were managers because we had, leaves and stripes and things like that, right?
Yeah,
Or
the epaulets.
supervisors. Yeah, right. That you could tell, but it wasn't so glaringly blatant when we were in blue shirts, right? And so I would always, again, you always have your pen in your breast pocket, right? So I would have the pen in the breast pocket. Well, the pen would leak all the time for whatever reason, or it would draw on the bottom. So inevitably, every day I would have a blue nipple pen mark on my white shirt, like every freaking day. And of course, the cons are like, oh, hey, boss, you got some pen on you, and like just straight at my boobs. And I'm like, yeah, thanks. My eyeballs are up here, guys. So here, right here, actually down here because I'm 5 feet, but here, up above where my chest is, right? Like, look here.
Let me get my step stool for you. Excuse me.
Right, totally. Yeah. But like, again, like, let's talk about a stupid uniform choice. My God. Oh my God. And I cannot believe she cut your pants. Okay. So we get you. Now we're into sheriffs. So you were escorts for 4 years before you went to
court security, prisoner transport. So doing both. It wasn't like one or the other. I was doing both.
Okay. And then you moved into external transfers. So it was just you and another staff member, and you guys did all the transfers across Canada. Is that how that worked?
So it's called Out of Province Escort. And it was me and another sheriff, like we're frontline still. And we would plan all the trips, communicate with other agencies, get the 6 days in line. So you have 6 days to go pick them up, and then get the packages together. And then we have a sheriffs that go on these trips. They get a secondment into that. So it's, at the time, it was like 5 people, frontline staff, that would go pick the inmates up and bring them back and then deal with their warrants here. Awesome. So I did that for about 2 years and then dabbled into our intel side of things as well. And then when dispatch was short staff, I would try to help them too. Just no one likes being short staff, no one. So if I could help wherever I could, I would. I wasn't great at it. And I'll tell you now, one of the dispatchers, her and I would laugh all the time because I'd be like, I have a list of things that you need to do because I have no idea what I'm doing, but I answered the phone. And she's like, oh, thank you. That actually helped more.
You're like, great. So I can take lists very well. I
super well down. So the dispatchers that I would help, communication officers that I would help. That was quite rude of me to say dispatchers. Communications officers that I would help. They were great on trying to teach me how to build runs. So each morning you log on as an escort team and you have a run of where you're going. So I would try to help them do that and then make sure that the intel list was ready so that the members going to pick up the individuals from the correctional centers know like the intel, like if they need to keep separate,
high profiles,
or if they're, whatever it is, and then where they're going, if they have intel on, carries weapons or no lone females or whatever it may look like. So definitely tried to help in whatever area I could. So I did that for about 2 years and then applied to the sergeant's competition.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk about the sergeant competition. So the first time you applied, unsuccessful. What was your take on that? Because I know everybody that's been through their career, you're successful at some things and you're unsuccessful at other things. Sometimes it's just not the right time. It's not the right opportunity. So what was the take on that when you were unsuccessful that first time?
First off, I didn't think I was going to be successful because nothing that day was going right. I was doing my Wonder Woman stance before they came out to get me. So I'm in the corner, hands on my hips, looking up at the sky, heavy breathing, right? Nervous as anyone should be. And I got caught doing that. I mean, I don't have a lot of shame, but being caught doing that in a hallway was quite embarrassing. And I was just like, hello, inspector. Go in the room, they ask you to tell yourself, tell them about yourself. So in my mind, telling about myself is telling my story. I understand you have my resume in front of you, so you know all my credentials and what I've done, where I've worked. So why would I reiterate that? But I guess that's a thing people do. They just spout off, oh, this is about me and I have
Yeah.
this education and I've done this. Like, yeah, that's great. They can read that, but like, why don't you be a little more personable and tell me about yourself? Like, why? Why do you want this? What are you doing in your life? Like, and divulge a little more, be a little more personable. So I was like, bleh, here you go. This is me. And both inspectors kind of looked at me and they're like, we didn't know that about you. I was like, I know, I don't share that. And like, even today, coming on here and being vulnerable and being like, hey, this is me and this was my story. And I got into trouble as a kid and I came forward with like what I was doing, and I got past that. So I think everybody should hear that I am a person and I grew and here I am. Like, work your butt off and be humble. Like, that is truly what I need to say to people. Like,
I love it. I love it.
um,
No, like shout it from the rooftops, girl. I also subscribe to that. Like
yeah.
it comes to those that work. If you're going to work for it, you got to work for it. Like I raising my girls, it's the same thing. Like you want it, you got to work for it. Nobody's going to come
Mm-hmm.
along and give it to you. Nobody's going to, it doesn't just get handed to you on a silver platter. If you want it, you got to work for it. Do you really want it? Yeah, I really want it. Well, then you got to put the work in, and then sometimes
Absolutely.
and sometimes they figure out maybe they really didn't want it. Maybe they didn't actually really want it because when it comes down to the work, they're like, yeah, I'm good, mom. I don't really want that. Or they like sometimes they shock the shit out of me and they will like work their ass off or something. And I'm like, to me, I was thinking like it's not something that they really care about, but they work their ass off, and I'm like, all right, like good, because
Good on you.
yeah, well, because I mean, like you said, life isn't easy. Life isn't easy, and things aren't going to get handed to you. And so if you want it, you got to work for it, and you got to be humble about it. So yeah, I shout it from the rooftops. I'm with you.
So yeah, I did feel let down, but after the competition, I did get a long-term acting position from that. So that was also a plus. So the government holds your interview results for 6 months. So if something comes open within that 6 months, like even recruiting, okay, we'll get into that after. But you apply, you certify is what it's called. So you have scored high enough within the interview process that they keep you on a list for 6 months. So if a position opens within the area that you applied, we will reach out to you. So same with recruiting. So the last posting I had, individuals were either successful or not successful. Meaning they certified or they didn't of the scoring. So they either got above the set percentage for the interview or they got below. So if you got above, then you would get an email saying, thank you. Unfortunately, you were not successful in this competition. However, you did certify, and we will be keeping your results for 6 months. So that was, what month was that? March, I think I reached out to you that we had a competition.
Yeah.
So if we had another competition, say today, I would be able to pull those individuals from the last competition and bring their scores forward and then go through it that way, offer positions based off of their scores. So I was lucky that something came open that one of the sergeants that I was backfilling for ended up becoming an inspector because they also interviewed and certified. So then I then got granted that position as full time. I mean, it's not as exciting, like you're in this position, then it's like, oh, by the way, you certified and here you go. So it's not as exciting, but it was still amazing. I had some pretty good mentors within the branch that helped me through this process of, navigating. I still remember working at our escort base where our OPs used to be, like the planning. And one of the inspectors walking in and he's like, what do you want to do with your life, Shipston? And I was like, come to work and go home. And he's like, that's it, eh? And I was like, yeah, that's it. And he's like, okay. And then from that moment, it was like a mental moment that I thought, what is he asking me? Like, what is he really asking me right now? So I go home and I think about a month later, I go knock on his door and I said, hey, can we have a chat? I was like, it's been really messing with me, your question. So I gave it some thought and I was like, I don't want to just go to work and come home. I said, because that's not going to make me happy. I want to keep home as always, and work, I want to work my butt off, and I want to be more, and I want to give more to this branch. So I want to be able to mentor individuals, and I want to be able to make sure that people feel supported. So I worked my ass off, and eventually it paid off.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think like you touched on a really good point there, that in the journey, it takes good mentors, it takes good field training officers, it takes good leaders, right? To kind of guide, especially coming in as young people, right? I was 22 when I started. I'm assuming you were probably about the same age when you started with Covenant Health or Insecurity, right? Yep. And you don't really know what you're doing with your life. You think you do. At 22, you think you fucking know what you're doing. You have no clue.
No idea.
Zero fucking clue about what you're doing, right? Or where you want to go. And it really does. I had one, same thing, one mentor, and he really, and I'll probably do episode on kind of him, and because he was profound in my life, in like different stages of my life, in building me up when I needed it, in absolutely cutting my ego way down when it needed, because I got a little too big for my boots at some point, and like bringing me very quickly down to reality. But then again, being there as I moved into a supervisory role and ended up, in his office being like, what the fuck have I done? This is the worst decision I ever made in my life. And him being like, okay, take a couple deep breaths, right? And then moving into management, and same thing, being able to go to him and be like, what the fuck have I done? I'm an idiot, right? So those people along the way that you need those people. You need those people to challenge you, and you need those people to question, what are you doing with your life? Why are you doing this? Where do you want to go? Because if somebody doesn't, you'll just go to work and you'll do your 8 hours and you'll go home, just like you're saying, right? That will be what you do.
One of the things that sticks out to me when you say that is like people not being able to also see that you have worked hard to get where you are, right? Like I remember when I did get promoted, walking up to one of the perimeter stations, and there was two males talking about how I only got promoted because I'm a female. Neither of them saw me standing there. I waited till they were done their conversation, and then I politely said, just so you know, I have been standing here the entire time, and that is not why I got promoted. But thank you for your insight. I truly appreciate where we stand. So I'm also a very forward person. So I like to deal with things at hand. But yeah, like that made me realize that people truly feel that way sometimes. So with society changing, we really need to wrap our heads around that it is not about gender. Like it is about the person. So people really need to hone in on not just the sex of an individual, because maybe you don't identify as one or the other. Like who are people to judge you? So yeah, absolutely. It's mind-blowing that in our day and age, this still happens, but it does, right? So for everyone out there, be unbiased, please.
Yeah. Yes. Totally. And I like that, because I've been on the opposite side of that, where in hirings, where they're like, well, she didn't score as good, but she's a female and we could really use some more female supervisors, right? And I agree 100%. We could use some more female supervisors, but I am not willing as the manager to take somebody that is not as skilled as somebody else because somebody has a vagina and somebody has a penis. I am not. That is not happening. I don't care. I need the best person for the job, not whether they're a girl and they meet a quota, or not whether they're a boy and they meet a quota. I need the best person for the job. I need the person that has the best skill set. I need the person that has the best ability to talk. I need the person who can go out there and lead, right? And if putting this person in a leadership position is then going to put our process at question, or it's going to make it so that people will say things like, oh, she was hired because she was a female, because obviously so-and-so is a better leader and I can see it and everyone else can see it. I don't want to be part of that. I'm not going to be part of that. We're not going to do that. I don't care. Now, was I overruled a lot of times? Yes, because I, am quite outspoken and sometimes I'm quite passionate about my views. And sometimes they tell me to shut up and they do what they want, right? But I mean, I will at least say that I spoke up and I said I don't agree with it, right? Okay, so I'm gonna wrap it up because I know we've been talking for a long time. But I have a couple quick. I literally could talk to you for hours.
Here's your fire question.
Here's the rapid rapid fire questions. I'm so excited. All right. So I think I kind of know the answer to this because you've said it like 3 or 4 times, but what is your absolute favorite piece of equipment that you get to use in your role or throughout your career? What was your favorite piece of equipment?
Driving the cars, lights and sirens. Let's go. Honestly, I had the best EVOC instructor, and not ever could anyone make this individual feel uncomfortable. I did it. He asked me, he's like, you know who's not afraid? And I was like, who? He's like, men. Men aren't afraid. And I said, yeah, whatever. Keep driving. Like,
you're like, I'm sorry. Yes, men are afraid. Have you ever seen them watch a baby be born? They shit their pants. So let's talk about that.
He's our best driver, and I hope every person that has ever had to deal with him is like, oh God, bad. He's hard. Yeah, he's hard because he's freaking passionate, knows his stuff, and my God, is he a good driver? So
that's amazing. What is the most uncomfortable thing that has happened to you as a female on shift? Besides getting shit on, because that's pretty uncomfortable.
That's a good one. Because, like, if I'm being honest, it takes a lot to make me feel uncomfortable. A lot. Like, I can't even recall being uncomfortable.
Nice.
Yeah. That's probably not a great thing, but yeah, I honestly cannot think of anything that makes me uncomfortable. Even the 2 individuals talking about how I only got it because I'm a female doesn't make me feel uncomfortable. It is what it is. That's maybe because I'm shut off on that way. I don't know.
No, I like it. That's resiliency. To me, that's resiliency, that nothing really makes you uncomfortable because it's like, whatever is what it is, right? Is what it is.
I had a kid ask me at the hospital working with him, and it was his first shift, and he says, so if you had to change anything, what would it be? I said, nothing. He's like, that's a bold statement, Shipston. I said, yeah, but if I changed something, I wouldn't be where I am. So you learn, you grow, and you move on. And he's like, holy God, I'm going to have to take that one.
Look at you just dropping life advice. Mic drop. See you later, bud. I'll see you next shift. Okay, right. What is the funniest story you have from the past year? I'll let you go 2 years because you're in a new role. I'll let you go 2 years. 2 years.
I don't have one.
You don't have one. Nothing funny has happened to you in the last 2 years of your life.
Yeah, my life. My whole life is hilarious.
Yeah, you can give me life. It doesn't have to be work. You got married. That's pretty fucking funny.
Okay, so hilarious. It was great. So I decided on my wedding day to break dance. Yeah. I broke out and I did the worm. How's that for embarrassing? In my wedding dress, okay?
Yes.
There you go. There. Yeah. I don't know why I felt like maybe I was 20 again. I will tell you, every piece of my body hurt for a few days. Every piece. Not like some. Even the pure fact that I was able to brace myself going down and not smash my face is quite impressive. Like, even my husband was like, I can't even believe you did that. He's like, good for you. Good for you. Like,
well, that's why I married her. He's
sorry.
I married the girl that's doing the worm over there. Yeah, that one in her wedding dress. She's mine.
Super classy.
If it makes you feel any better, we did a line out for rugby at my wedding because the majority of the people that were in my wedding party were rugby people. And I have a picture. Yeah, I have a picture of me and my bridesmaids in a scrum. And it was one of my favorite pictures. So yeah. It's all good. Not quite as classy as the worm. Not quite as physical as the worm, but you know.
It was a lot of work, I'll tell you that much.
Okay. Last one for you. What is your favorite food or snack when you are on shift?
Cheeseburger. Frig, I love burgers. Oh.
Frig, I love burgers. I'm gonna have to make a burger. I'm gonna have to make a burger crew. Like, I'm telling you, because the amount of people that answer burgers, like, yeah.
Let's have a burger cook-off. I'll do it for sure. Absolutely. Hands down. Any day. Ask Farrell. I love cheeseburgers. Like, I love cheeseburgers, and she used to make fun of me because I love vacuuming as well. So there you go. She used to just show up at my house and be like, I assumed you were vacuuming. So I just showed up.
Thought I'd watch you vacuum while eating a cheeseburger.
Pizza would be my second. Pizza. Okay.
Pizza would be your second.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would not say I'm having chicken and vegetables. That is not riveting to me. That's a whatever meal, you know? So Like,
Yes.
if I could eat a cheeseburger every day and not gain weight, I would, absolutely.
So, okay, so where's your favorite place to get the cheeseburger from then?
My house, because I'm
Yeah.
snotty. I'm super snotty. But I did find a new place in Calgary called Inglewood
Mhm.
Drive-In. It was good. It was good. It blew
Well,
my
that's
mind.
it for today, guys.
And
Thanks so
then
much for
Jack's Burger
listening,
in
tuning
St.
in,
Albert,
and
not
sharing your
downtown
time and
Edmonton.
energy with us.
No.
St.
Make sure
Albert.
you check out our next
It
episode
was
starring
mind-blowing as
another
well. The
badass
barbecue
female
crunch.
first
Yeah.
responder
Yes.
But
on
I
Apple,
became really
Spotify,
snotty
or
with my
TuneIn.
burgers. Like,
And make sure to
I'll
follow
go
us
out
on
and I'll order
Instagram
one.
and
I was like,
Facebook
nah, I
at
don't know
Blue
why I
Line
paid for
Fitness
that.
Testing.
You know?
Stay safe and keep your
I
head
could
on a
make a
swivel.
much better one at home.
Yeah. Smash burger, smoking on the Traeger, whatever. I'm eating a burger.
That's amazing. And again, mic drop from Shipston. So that's where we're going to end this episode with I'm crushing a burger. Okay. Well, like I said, it's been amazing talking to you. I've learned like a ton about you that I didn't know, which is amazing. So thank you for sharing. Again, thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story.
Absolutely.
I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. I hope you get out there and enjoy that sunshine. Take care of yourself. And
You
have
too.
a great one.